Light 'em up.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Light 'em Up, home of Fan First Sports Debate, right here live on Twitter Spaces. My name is Live with David, and I am the host and executive producer of Light 'em Up. And it feels so good to welcome you all back here to the show. We've been away for a while. I'm a proud father now of two twin boys, and just getting used to that new normal. Unfortunately had to required me to step away from the show for a while, but my wonderful team here at Light 'em Up and I have been trying to work over the past month to back, and it feels good to say on tonight, May 17th, 2023, we are back here on Twitter Spaces. So welcome to everyone that is listening live here on Twitter Spaces or listening wherever you get your podcast. You can find us at Light 'em Up Show on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, or wherever you get your podcast that you can find us there. We're also on YouTube at Light 'em Up Show. And you can follow us at the link on our profile page here, podpage.com/lightemup, separated by hyphens, to get links to all of the favorite podcast directories, YouTube pages, everything about Light 'em Up you can find there. So be sure to check us out. Now, since it's been a while, let me give you all a rundown as to what we do here on Light 'em Up. So as I mentioned at the top of the show, this is the home of Fan First Sports Debate. So all the topics that you have ever heard on Light 'em Up, including the ones tonight, will have been submitted by listeners and fans of the show. And each show we will try to feature 3 debates, and they're structured like this. Each debater will have a 2-minute opening statement where they explain why they're taking the stance that they're taking. That will be followed by an 8-minute crossfire segment, what we like to call Light 'em Up, where we encourage the debaters to get in there, mix it up respectfully, all allow a little chippiness, but respectfully, get at each other about their respective stances. We then close with 2-minute closing statements, and then 2 minutes for voting via the links that you see pinned here on the space. So with that being said, that's how we roll here at Light 'em Up. Let's get into our first contest tonight, featuring 2 Jersey boys, KapNoCap and Matt Siriani, as they will be debating the best and worst performances of what was a very entertaining first round of the NBA playoffs. Cap, Matt, you guys are free to come off of mute.
Mm-hmm.
How we doing tonight, gentlemen?
Good.
Doing good.
All right. Happy to hear. And before I get started with these two, I just want to throw out to everyone here that is listening, drop a tweet if you hear a good one-liner or just a good zinger. Drop it in the space here, and I might use that as the tagline or the title for the show. So make sure you drop those one-liners here in the chat as we go along here. But yes, let's go ahead and get into this first debate, shall we? I got Cap, just to make sure I got everyone's picks right. Cap, you'll be debating that the Lakers had the best first-round performance and the Bucks had the worst first-round performance, correct?
That is correct.
All right. And Matt, you have the Heat having the best first-round performance with the Cavs performing the worst.
Yes? That is correct.
All right. We don't have any records or anything, so we're just going to keep this old school and just go by alphabetical order. Cap, you have the choice to whether you want to have the first opening statement or the first statement. What do you choose?
I'll start off opening.
Okay. All right, your 2-minute opening statement starts now, Cap.
All right. So far, we are witnessing one of the most unpredictable playoffs of all time. We have witnessed the Lakers' extraordinary run, making the conference finals for the first time in front of a full capacity crowd. For the first time ever, LeBron James doesn't have to be the best player on the floor to get a W. We have seen Anthony Davis finally come into his own as the number 1 option on a potential championship roster, averaging 22.6 points and 13.8 rebounds in 37 minutes in a game. The Lakers have become the lowest seed since 1999. I'm lying. I forgot all about Miami. To make the conference finals. To get there, they were able to beat the current world champions Golden State Warriors, but we are here to speak on the first round where the 7th seed Lakers not only defeated the 2nd seed Grizzlies, but wiped the floor with them in a Game 6, defeating them by 40 after Dillon Brooks infamously said, "I don't respect any man that doesn't drop 40 on me." In that first round, the Lakers were able to make a difference, have a different player be their leading scorer. Game 1 was Rui Hachimura. Game 2 was Braun. Game 3 was AD. Game 4 was Austin Reeves. Game 5 was AD. And Game 6 was D'Angelo Russell. The Lakers were able to out-rebound and out-hustle the younger Grizzlies and make it to the second round for the first time in 3 years. To me, this was easily the best first-round performance all year. On the other side, the Bucks had the worst performance in the first round. They came into the first round with the best record in the league, winning 58 games, and lost in 5. Not only becoming the first team to lose to a play-in team, but also the first seed to lose in 5 games in the first round. During the regular season, Giannis led this team to a 16 straight victories and was the number one, and never relinquished it afterwards. Once they went to the playoffs, Giannis got hurt. Jimmy Butler drew first blood. But then once Giannis came back to the series, he was able to give you enough to beat the Miami Heat. But in the fourth quarter, in both Game 4, Game 5, and Game 6, the Miami Heat came back on multiple double-digit leads to eventually eliminate the Bucks in 5 games.
All right. And right on time. Appreciate it, Cap. Matt, 2-minute opening statement starts now, my friend.
All right. Well, if you look at the way the NBA playoffs are right now, it's basically back to 2020. The final 4 teams are all 4 teams that we saw in the bubble competing for the conference finals for the right to go to the NBA finals. But we're not here to focus on the present. We're here to focus on the past, which is the first round of the NBA playoffs. And in the first round of the NBA playoffs, we saw the birth or legend of Jimmy freaking Butler, the man who dropped 56 points in Game 4 of the first round of the NBA playoffs, Buccaneers, and 42 in the Game 5 to clinch the series, ultimately scoring 90 points in the final 2 games of that series. And the Miami Heat have been rolling. Gabe Vincent, Max Strus, Bam Adebayo, all coming in full circle around Jimmy Butler to rally this team to dominant victory over the number 1 team in the NBA overall with 58-game wins that Kat mentioned before. And on the other side of the spectrum, the most disappointing team, no doubt about it, has to be the Cleveland Cavaliers. Why? Because they lost to the Knickerbockers. I mean, the Knickerbockers, my goodness. And ultimately, Donovan Mitchell was the prized possession that you had to have in the offseason over the summer last year, and he ultimately fell flat. Inconsistency over the 5-game series against the Knicks, dropping 11 points in Game 4, and 79 points in the Game 4 total from the team, or Game 3 in the series against the Knicks, which is the lowest any team put up in a game this season, postseason or regular season. And ultimately, you got to figure that the New York Knicks did not have an advantage coming in this one. They were the underdog. They wanted Donovan Mitchell, but they had fire in their eyes. They wanted to show Donovan Mitchell and prove him wrong, and they did that.
Seconds.
But Mitchell looked pitiful in that series as the series progressed, and the Knicks shocked the world and moved on to the second round of the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. But ultimately, the Cavs were disappointed because they had so much potential. They beat the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference, and they looked like they were poised to at least make a run, but they fell flat on their faces in 5 games and showed no mercy and no will towards the end.
All right. Thank you for that, Matt. Thank you, gentlemen, for your opening statements. You both can come off of mute. And your 8 minutes of crossfire starts now. Light them up.
Bucks, I'm guaranteeing that, like, listen, you mentioned a point. Giannis Antetokounmpo got hurt in the first game of the series. I mean, when Giannis gets hurt, I mean, listen, the Bucks are going to spiral out of control regardless because Giannis is the center focus of that offense for the Bucks. But the reason why I don't put them as necessarily the biggest disappointment is because, yeah, they ultimately lost in the first round of the best record in the NBA. But ultimately, you can't really say losing to Jimmy Butler is a bad thing, especially when your best player is hurt. When your best player is not on and he's active, that's a problem.
I could say that when you're the number 1 seed and you sat here and not only did you win multiple games without Giannis Antetokounmpo in the game where Drew was able to come alive and give you 36 and 39 points respectfully. So they have shown that they can win games without Giannis. But what happened in that first round, in Game 2, they was even able to defeat Miami without Giannis Antetokounmpo. So there's no reason why you should not be able to win Game 4 and Game 5 with Giannis in the game, especially in Game 4 where you have Brook Lopez give you 36 points and Giannis Antetokounmpo gives you a triple-double, but you go into the fourth quarter with a double-digit lead and you end up losing it. And then you do the same thing in Game 5 with Giannis giving you 38 and 20. But I want to really believe the Bucks' run was worse than the Cavs. They came into the playoffs as the favorites for most people, while the Cavaliers were in a 4-5 matchup against a hungry Knicks team. During the regular season, the Cavs were outplayed by the Knicks and lost 3 out of the 4 meetings, while Miami and the Bucks tied during the regular season. So going into the playoffs, a lot of people were on the fence of picking the Knicks over the Cavs, who did not have a lot of playoff experience outside of Donovan Mitchell. Brunson has already been schooling Mitchell since the playoffs last season. Miami and Milwaukee played in 3 different series in recent years where they both won a series, Miami in 2020 and the Bucks in 2021. So this series was not as one-sided especially with Giannis getting hurt and Tyler Hero also getting hurt in the same game. So there's
Well,
no real reason.
also, you gotta look at the fact that Giannis getting hurt, and yes, Drew Holiday was a big acquisition for the Buccaneers and for the Bucks, and he did come alive. But I also got to mention the point: Jimmy Butler, Bam Adebayo, Max Strus, they had good contributing players step up around Jimmy Butler, and they ultimately succeeded. They scored 124 points a game on average against the Bucks team that was number 4 in defensive efficiency in the NBA this season. I mean, the Miami Heat threw every single punch they could possibly throw at the Bucks, and the Bucks didn't have an answer. And yes, Giannis got hurt any time, but ultimately by the time he did come back, there was no answer. Even with Giannis on the floor, the Bucks couldn't get the job done. But that's not on him. That's just ultimately getting outplayed. The Bucks didn't get rabbled. They gave it their best. They gave it their best shot. Now Cleveland, on the other hand, look at Cleveland. They lost their will by Game 4. By Game 4, they were drained. By Game 4, they were tired. Game 3, they dropped 79. Donovan Mitchell had 11 points in Game 4 of that series against the Knicks.
I'm explaining to you why that is so. In the Cavs and Knicks series, the Cavs got outplayed in that hustle, losing in 5 games. And as disappointing as that is, they're not touching the Bucks, who ended up doing just as bad. The Bucks doubled. The Bucks won 58 games, while the Cavs only won 49, 50 games this season. But once the Cavs got to Madison Square Garden, their soul was gone. There was nothing left in that team, mainly because of the fact that Coach Bickerstaff took Okoro out of the starting lineup, and they had 3 of their best scorers in the game, and they lost their rhythm that they built on that Game 2 victory, playing right into the Knicks' hands and never bouncing back. It was countless turnovers from Darius Garland and Donovan Mitchell. But that also comes down to the fact that the Knicks had a deeper team going into this series. Now they have Josh Hart, who we actually wanted to acquire in the offseason, but wasn't able to, and New York was able to pick him up. They also had Obi Toppin, and they also had Emmanuel Quickly coming off the bench, giving them extra minutes. And then RJ Barrett, who looked very terrible in the first 2 games, came alive in Game 3 and in Game 4 in those games in New York, and pretty much took the series away from us. And then in Game 5, they played their best game as a team, despite
but ultimately Cleveland fell short even in the best game.
Let me hop in here.
Remember one other thing too. Cleveland didn't even score 100 points in the 4 games they lost. They scored 100 points one time, and that was the one time they won 107-90. You look at the other 4 games that they.
Hey, gents, let me cut in here. Let me cut in here because you guys are about halfway. You're about halfway through here. I want to call something out. So, Matt, you said the Heat had the best performance, and Cap, you're saying the Bucks had the worst performance. So, I want to throw something out here. How much of a factor did coaching in that Bucks Heat series play into the fact that the Bucks were eliminated in 5 games? Obviously, Coach Bud was fired, but how big of a factor was coaching in that series? About 3 minutes to go here.
Well, Eric Spoelstra was a former NBA champion. He's won that titles with the Miami Heat in the past. His utilization of Jimmy Butler, using him as a flex guy to do whatever he wanted, attack inside, attack from 3, attack wherever you can, work around Giannis, trying to attack the weakest defender, trying to defend the best shooter, which was Drew Holiday. And then ultimately in that last possession in the Game 5 series between Miami and Milwaukee, the possession ultimately was a failure because Grayson Allen got the last shot, and they didn't even come with a shot or plan around it. Ultimately, Spoelstra was sensational coaching this series to the strength of the Heat players, ultimately just finding the weakness in the Milwaukee Bucks, trying to get the weakest player the chance at the ball. And ultimately, the weakest player didn't even get a shot off in Game 5. Ultimately, Spoelstra did what he could to coach around this series. He outcoached Budenholzer, and he ultimately came out victorious, and it shows why he has experience. Budenholzer, 3-time number 1 seed, 3-time first-round loser. It's happened. But ultimately, you got to realize
that also goes back to the fact that I'm making while the Bucks had
2 minutes
run, they were the number 1 seed, and they're the first number 1 seed to lose a series in 5 games, and they also were the first number 1 seed to lose to a playing team. They sat here, and despite only not having Giannis for 2 games, they won one of those games. But once Giannis came back, they were not able to win. They were not able to win a game in that series, and they had 2 double-digit leads going into the 4th quarter. Mike Budenholzer did not make the right adjustments. He was not able to get anything going from the different acquisitions that they got from Jay Crowder or Gordon Dragic. Joe Ingles wasn't able to give them much of nothing. Their entire bench was just out there running cardio. Jimmy Butler had a great series, don't get me wrong, but the rest of those guys were pedestrians at best. They had good games, one at a time. They were not a play as a collective every night. They needed Jimmy Butler to give them 98 points in the last two to even have a chance of winning that series. But we didn't talk about the Lakers, who I believe had the best playoff run. The Lakers, who were a 7th seed, defeated a very hungry T-Wolves team to get into the playoffs to begin with. And then they go off and then they play against this Grizzlies team where they dominate throughout the entire series. Every single game, a different person had the top score. In game 1, Rui Hachimura came off the bench, gave you 29 points. AD on 2 different occasions gave you 31 points and also pulled down a tremendous amount of rebounds and was able to lock up the Defensive Player of the Year, who looked like he wasn't even supposed to be on the floor with him. Not only that, but the Lakers was able to defeat the Grizzlies, not only in game 3 from a wire-to-wire victory, but in game 6, they blew them out by 40 points and literally left them looking like they were not even supposed to be on the floor with them. These guys were the 2nd seed.
That is time, gentlemen. Woo! I'm glad I had you two come back to give us our first contest. That captured of what we like here at Light 'Em Up. Thank you for that great crossfire segment. Cap, I'm gonna ask you to go on mute, my man, and Matt, your 2-minute closing statement starts now.
We didn't really touch on much of the Los Angeles Lakers, as Cap mentioned. We only had a minute to do that. But as impressive as the Lakers' performance was against the Memphis Grizzlies, they barely squeaked by the Timberwolves to even get in this position. And then even in the games that they won against the Grizzlies, albeit game 6, they blew out the Grizzlies. They squeaked by 10 points, 11 points, but they didn't really have a game. I mean, yeah, Anthony Davis finally came alive. But as far as impressive, they weren't scoring 120 points a game, 124 points a game against a top-ranked defense, and they were going up against a team that was undisciplined. The Grizzlies are one of the most undisciplined basketball teams in the NBA, period. End of story. And ultimately, you got to look at the fact that the Miami Heat, they were a scoring machine. And even to this day, they barely get over 100 points every single game with the greatest of ease. And Jimmy Butler's averaging 31.1 points per game in these playoffs, 188 in 5 games against the Bucks. That's basically 37.6 points per game if you do the math. And that's pretty much how dominant he has been. The Miami Heat looked dominant because Jimmy Butler carried them. He rallied, and the guys rallied around Jimmy Butler, and they performed well. Dave Vincent performed well. Max Strus performed well. Bam Adebayo was a beast. And then the Cleveland Cavaliers side of things, they lost to the Knicks, and their soul was basically deflated. They basically wanted to try and prove that Donovan Mitchell was in the right place at the right time. And this Cavs team, they're young. 27, Donovan Mitchell. 25, Jared Allen. Darius Garland and Evan Mobley are 22 and 23 respectively, and they didn't perform well because of how young they were and how talented they were. They won 51 games this year, which is more than by 4. But ultimately, at the end of the day, the Knicks, yeah, they came in hungry, but a 4-5 is usually one of the most competitive series in the NBA. But this is not what happened. What happened was the Cavs got dominated. They showed no heart, no will. Donovan Mitchell looked inconsistent and flat out shook by the time Game 4 came around. And it was just disappointing to see because I expected way more from this Cavs team. They beat the top 3 teams in the Eastern Conference, and it seemed like they were going to pull on a miracle run out of nowhere, but that's not what happened. They disappointed everybody in Cleveland, and this is why Cleveland is not meant for any success because of stuff like this and disappointment and heartbreak. I can see my time.
All right. Right at the buzzer. Thank you for that, Matt. Cap, you can come off of mute, sir, and your 2-minute closing statement starts now.
All right, so in the first round, the Cavaliers were bullied against the Knicks because they had the deeper bench. While Knicks had Josh Hart, Obi Toppin, and Emmanuel Quickley coming off their bench, the Cavaliers had Levert for 2 games, Ricky Rubio, Dean Wade, C.J. Osman, and Isaac Okoro for 3 games coming off their bench. Did not have a fighting chance unless Donovan Mitchell averaged 40. He only averaged 23. Brunson came into his own as the number 1 option and was able to come up big for the Knicks, while R.J. Barrett came alive in the final 3 games, torching the Cavs for 19, 26, and 21. The Bucks came into the first round as the only team that people believed could defeat, and they lost to Jimmy Butler and the Temptations in 5 games. Pick up Jay Crowder and Gordon Dragic for no reason. Had Joe Ingles and Wesley Matthews wasting away minutes, while Giannis in the final game had 38 and 20, but went 10 and 23 from the free throw line, which would have secured the game if the Bucks wouldn't have choked. The Cavs didn't choke. They got outplayed. The Bucks did not just have the worst performance of these playoffs. They had the worst performance for a first seed of all time. But on the other side of the coin, Miami undoubtedly reversed their luck in the first round. And the legend of Jimmy Butler is alive and well. We can see the Heat don't do anything without him. but this is not an individual playoff performance award. It's going to the entire team. And if we're being honest, if Jimmy doesn't score 98 points in the last 2 games, he probably loses this series. But the Lakers played as a well-oiled team after starting 2-10, making a trade halfway through the season, and changed their luck for the rest of the year. The Lakers had the most dominant first-round run in the playoffs outside of the Sixers sweeping the Nets, and had no problem beating the Grizzlies by 13. In Game 3, they held the lead for the entire game, only won by just 11 because Ja Morant scored 45, and in Game 6, blew the Grizzlies out in LA by 40. The Lakers had the best performance in the first round by any team. LeBron didn't average his usual 28-20. He was able to cruise to an average of 23 points per game, while AD was a defensive anchor, and the young Austin Reeves was able to come alive at times in the series with Russell and Rui. While Miami was able to defeat Goliath of the East Coast, the Lakers looked like the Goliath of the West. I'm not going to see the rest of my time.
Okay. Right on time. Okay. Appreciate that, Cap. Excellent debate, gentlemen. And now I turn it over to the listening audience to vote. So thank you, Pat, for pinning the voting link. So feel free to go to that voting link. The poll is now live, and start casting your votes for who you believe won this debate on the best and worst performances of the NBA playoffs first round. All right. And I see that there are...
That was a fantastic debate. I ain't gonna lie.
Oh my God. What a way to return the show. Wow.
Yeah, you guys definitely gave it justice. I appreciate you coming with that heat, which I shouldn't be surprised given you guys' history on the show, but appreciate it nonetheless.
If Cap wins, it'll be 2-2. Oh,
then we got to bring you guys back for another one. We got to do second round then for the next show. Or actually, the next show comes around... Yeah, it'll be the eve of the NBA playoffs. I mean, the NBA finals, because I believe they start on June 1st.
Yes, that's correct.
Would that be perfect timing to talk about the second round? All right, got about a minute left here to go in voting. Obviously, I can't vote, but Aaron
and we can't vote,
and you two can't vote. So that leaves. Let me do the math. Come on, Dave. 1, 2, 3. That's 6. At least 6 people to vote. So a majority would be 4 votes, and right now that majority goes to Cap. Cap wins 4 votes to 0.
Good job, man.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for that excellent opening contest. I appreciate it.
No problem. No problem.
All right. Got a couple of applauses here in the audience too. Okay, gentlemen.
On my profile picture, I came for blood.
All right, gentlemen, I'll remove you two from speakers and get ready for our next contest here. Thanks again.
All right, thank you.
Yep. Light 'em up. All right. Well, y'all, you got to see exactly what we're about here on Light 'em Up. Excellent contest there between KapNoCap and Matt Siriani on the first round of the NBA playoffs. So now we go from the hard court to the ice as we get set to debate what has been a spectacular Stanley Cup playoffs here. So many game sevens, lots of scoring, and just outstanding competition throughout. Some really surprising upsets too. I went to school in Boston, and I adopted the Bruins as my team because my native Atlanta Thrashers got moved to Winnipeg, so I had to cheer for somebody. And so I'm a little slighted with how the playoffs have panned out so far. But as a fan, it's been great. It's been great to watch. And we got 2 other fans here who have also been enjoying the action, Redbox and Patrick J, who will be debating who have been the most impressive players of this year's Stanley Cup playoffs in our second contest this evening here on Line 'em Up live on Twitter Spaces. Patrick, Redbox, how you guys doing tonight?
Pretty good. It's good to be back. I'm glad we were able to get this thing back off the ground.
Yes. Thank you for coming back on. I too am glad to be back in action here.
I got to redeem myself after my loss in my first Light 'em Up debate. So
well, you
and
you came to the right place. But if I know Redbox, he's not going to make that an easy thing for you to do.
Nah, I'm ready to go. I got the Takis and flaming hot Doritos because I like to have my mouth flaming hot on fire while I'm spitting the fire. You know?
Very on brand. Very on brand. Okay, well, let's get started here then. So as a reminder, we're going to have 2 2-minute opening statements, an 8-minute crossfire segment, and then two 2-minute closing statements. Again, we're going to go by alphabetical order here. Patrick. P comes before R. Yes. Patrick, I'm going to invite you, sir, to lead things off today for our second debate on the most impressive players from this year's Stanley Cup playoffs thus far. So your 2-minute opening statement starts now.
The most impressive players being plural, I would say the entire Florida Panthers team, notably Sergei Bobrovski and Brendan Montadour. Bobrovski didn't even start the series for whatever reason. I think the Panthers knew they didn't have a chance. They were a low seed playing against the best team in NHL history. The Bruins were 40 points ahead of them in the regular season standings. I don't know why they started Alex Lyon. I think the Panthers went into the series thinking, let's just not get humiliated. And then I think they were down 3-0. And then all of a sudden, I think they went to Bobrovski in game 4. And from there, Bobrovski carried them, kept them in the series. I think Montadour had a hat trick in game 6 or game 7. They slayed the Dragon, and then they went on to play Toronto in the next round. That was a team that finished 20 points ahead of them in the regular season standings. And Florida with a lot of momentum. I mean, if they could beat Boston, damn, they could beat anybody. And they fairly easily dismissed Toronto in the next round, 4 games to 1. They've got a lot of key role players playing well. They have Carter Verhaeghe from the Lightning system. He knows how to win. They've got Matthew Tkachuk, who has been clutch all playoffs long. He's a +10, contributing both ends of the ice. They're getting big minutes, big plays from everybody. Everybody's sacrificing their body, getting hurt, blocking shots, buying into Paul Maurice's plan, and they are playing. I mean, if they played this well during the regular season, they wouldn't have been the 7th or 8th seed playing for their lives. They look like a 1st or 2nd overall team right now.
All right. Thank you for that opening statement, Pat. You can go on mute. Redbox, 2-minute opening statement starts now.
There's certainly a few players or player groupings I could have picked when looking at best overall player performance in these playoffs, but I decided to go all in on one man because I think he deserves all the credit, or a lot of the credit, for what the Edmonton Oilers have been able to accomplish, or accomplished, I guess. They're out now. And that man's Leon Draisaitl. 13 goals in just 12 games. That's an average of 1.1 goals per game, give or take a few zeros. It's absolutely incredible. And this man's been consistent all season, 50 goals in the regular season, but we're not here to talk about that. And he's obviously overshadowed by the best player in hockey, Connor McDavid. Not during the playoffs, though. McDavid was the points leader, but he only had 8 goals through 12 games. His contributions primarily came in the assist department. Draisaitl was lighting it up. Pardon me for that one. And in particular, game 1 against Vegas. Now, you'd probably be asking, why are you saying game 1 against Vegas should be the highlight of the Oilers playoffs? They lost it. Yeah, their defense, their goaltending, pretty pathetic. But Draisaitl put on a show, scored all 4 goals for that Oilers team in that 6-4 loss. And overall, I mean, he's out now. He's still going to be top 5, if not the goal-scoring leader in the NHL playoffs. I think it's very possible. Man's not getting enough credit. He is up here. I mean, he is up here in the Canadian media, and Leon Draisaitl has been, I don't think there's even any question of it, the best player so far in the NHL playoffs.
10 seconds.
I can see the rest of my time.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, both for your opening statements. And before beginning the crossfire, just a reminder that feel free to drop any cool one-liners or anything here in the space. I think Patrick already said one. Appreciate that. But drop those one-liners in here, and it may be used as the title of tonight's show for the podcast. So with that being said, let's get into our fire. Most impressive players of the Stanley Cup playoffs. Gentlemen, light them up.
Leon, that's not a very good hockey name. I think Leon mows my lawn. He scores a lot of goals, but he might not be the best player on his line. I think it's the gritty things. It's winning faceoffs. It's blocking shots. It's playing good defensively. I think just the Panthers team have just bought in to, I mean, they're on a high. They beat the best team ever. They beat a team 20 points ahead of them in the lineup. Like, they could do no wrong. And Bobrovski, I saw a story that he's losing 15 to 20 pounds a game. He is sacrificing his body each and every game. I don't know how he replaces that 10 or 15 or 20 pounds a game. I don't know if he'll be shriveled down to nothing by the end of the playoffs. It's special to watch. It's incredible. It's for a team that, like, where was this all season? How do you finish 7th or 8th in your conference and then just dominate the postseason? It's exciting to watch. My favorite team sucks. I will not name them. They did not make the playoffs. They were not even close to the playoffs. It's a lot more exciting. The excitement, it's a lot more exciting to watch these playoffs when your team is not in it and you can just watch it as a non-biased fan. Oh, it's just, I'd be a nervous wreck if my team was actually in the playoffs.
That's where I'm at now. My team got bounced in the second round by the Florida Panthers, so I know the feeling. And I mean, again, as you said, Bobrovski didn't even play the whole playoffs. I mean, he's not even the leader amongst goalies. I know we were talking the team at large, which definitely incredible. I'll give you that. But when we break it down to individual players, Bobrovski, actually a former Leaf, is beating him by over a point in save percentage. That would be Fred Anderson, who I couldn't have been more happy to get rid of when he left. I don't know.
Why didn't you're a Leafs fan or Oilers fan?
Oh, I'm a Leafs fan. I'm a huge Leafs fan.
Yeah, speaking of Leafs, why didn't the Oilers go to Jack Campbell in games 6 or 7? That was a horrible decision.
Oh, I know. I agree. Decision. I think on their defense, defense and goaltending, the Oilers are atrocious, and that's why it was Draisaitl, who was without him, they would have lost to the Kings. I will die on that hill. There's no way. I mean, Bouchard and McDavid were big. I mean, Nurse on defense is not half bad.
So let me get in here real quick about Draisaitl, because he was absolutely on a scoring tear during these playoffs.
Yes.
I think had he not been eliminated, I think he was on pace for breaking the record. I believe it was by Reggie Leach in 76 of 19 goals. So he had 13 through the Oilers' first 10 games, which is absolutely insane. But then on the other hand, you look at this Panthers team, and I believe you guys were down 3-1 to Boston, the number 1 overall seed.
Boston.
And then not only proceed to win 3 straight, but I think you guys also won another 3 straight against the Leafs.
Toronto,
against the Maple Leafs. So is it what stands up better, the individual performance? Obviously Draisaitl plays along McDavid, but is that more impactful, or is the fact that you have this team collectively go on a 6-game streak and as the lowest seed in the conference? 4 minutes to go here.
I mean, I don't want to minimize what the Panthers have done. Again, as I said, it's definitely a feat. The first 3 games against the Leafs, this is coming from a Leafs fan. The Leafs played like absolute trash in a lot of them for a good chunk of the game. Problems with giveaways, problems with defense. They were all on display. They were on display in the first round too, but those games were just scoring fests for the most part. And I think you look at someone who, as you said, was on track to break the 19-goal playoff record. I think he easily would have done it. I mean, you saw records fly in the regular season. The Bruins possibly going to go down as the greatest team of all time. I think very possibly we could have been able to put Draisaitl's performance up there if we had seen him in the third and final rounds. Now that team has a myriad of other issues that they have to figure out first, just like Toronto. But as an individual, I mean, and again, he has a mate over there who gets all the smoke, all the coverage, and for good reason for most part. Was definitely not the case. I believe he became the best player in hockey for a very short period of time. Of course, that won't be the case when we move on to the next 2 rounds, but we're talking about so far. And I think that has to be factored in. I mean, he was on a record-breaking pace, and you only need 6 more goals. He would have had 2 rounds to do it, assuming they'd gone through. That's nothing.
So about 2 minutes to go here, Patrick. Let me turn to you. You mentioned, you called out Bobrovski and Montadour specifically, but do you think that if you took them away from the Panthers, that collective effort they were able to put together still happens? Or what specifically do you like about those two that helped them stood apart in what has been arguably the most impressive team effort ever by an A seed and the teams that they face? Minute and a half to go here.
I think they've got a lot of. They've got Alex Barkov was a top pick. They've got a lot of good players together at the right time. Matthew Tkachuk was a high draft pick. Aaron Ekblad was a top. They've got a lot of top picks that they've developed in house. They're just buying into the system. They're all working hard. There's no I in team. Everybody's making sacrifices, and that's what the Stanley Cup Playoffs is all about. Putting your body on the line, getting cut, getting hurt, and even if you took away Bobrovski and Montadour, somebody would step up, be it Ekblad or Sam Bennett or Carter Verhaeghe. They've got a winning mentality. Only 1 or 2 of the players on the roster have a Stanley Cup ring, but they're almost like a Tampa light. They have a winning mindset that they've been building for a few years, and Tampa might be on the decline. And the Panthers, what they've done over the last season or two, they won the President's Trophy last year. I think they're the best team in the league. Got knocked out. They took that lesson, and they're a little pissed off.
All right, and I'm going to end it there. Thank you, gentlemen, for that great crossfire there. Redbox, you can stay on here, and I'm going to give you 2 minutes to walk us through your closing statement.
All right. Okay, good. I'm unmuted. All right. I'm not going to add new things, just kind of restate what I've already thrown on the table here. Leon Draisaitl, I keep wanting to say Connor McDavid, which maybe is a bit of a reflection of how we view that team. But Leon Draisaitl, lights out, best player in the playoffs so far. I don't believe it can be contested. Averaging over a goal per game. 4 of those came in what was unfortunately, they should have won that. There's no reason they should have lost that game. A 6-4 effort against Vegas, I think has a good shot at ending this thing as champions. They deserve it. Was on pace to break that record of 19 goals, set all the way back in the 70s when, which I think there's something to that. He only needed 6 more, scoring 6 goals in the playoffs over 2 rounds. It could easily be done. It's been done 1,000 times. That's no heroic feat, but put them all together and 19 goals absolutely would be. I say with full confidence it would have happened. And I say with full confidence that if the Oilers could figure out the other issues they have across the board on defense, they have one of my least favorite goalies that we had, Campbell. Then Draisaitl would have been given the chance to fully shine and fully show what he is capable of in these last 2 rounds of the playoffs. I can see the rest of my time.
All right. Thank you for that, Redbox. Patrick, you can come off the mute, sir, and your 2-minute closing statement starts now.
Scoring goals is all well and good, but man, it's got to be a team effort. Scoring a lot of goals, you can't win 6-4 in the playoffs every single night. You can't win like that. You've got to do the dirty work, and I'm sure Draisaitl's an incredible player, but it's just through. And if he was blocking shots or helping on defense or winning faceoffs, it just wasn't enough. And if it means not scoring 19 goals and being a team player, I'm sure he's a team player. He's a great player. I'm not taking anything against him, but at some point, man, if you're up 2 or 3-0, just hold the puck the rest of the game. Don't let the other team have the puck. I couldn't fathom why every game the Oilers were playing was 5-4, 6-4, 7-5. Like, just stop the bleeding. Just you've scored enough goals. Just play some defense. You don't need to be pedal to the metal, hammer down the entire series. The Stanley Cup playoffs is more of a team first.
30 seconds.
Oh man, I don't want to take anything away from what Draisaitl did, but just overall, oh man, you got me. This is what it's all about. This crossfire here. It just wasn't enough, and I think what the Panthers have done collectively as a team, winning in the trenches, doing the dirty work. At the end of the day, the dirty work is what wins the game, not goal scoring.
All right, and right on time. Thank you, gentlemen, for that excellent debate. We're now going to turn things over to the voting. So again, you can click the voting link in the chat here, and the poll is now live. Send in your vote. I must say I wanted the all expansion Western Conference final. I wanted Seattle and Vegas.
Oh man, the NHL had Edmonton, Boston, they had like New York, LA. They had all of these juicy matchups, and I was
hoping for Toronto, Edmonton.
Oh yeah. Oh,
I'm biased. I'm up north. I'm biased.
That's fair.
I would have loved that. I think it's probably the least sexy. The Stanley Cup final is what the NHL is going to get,
yeah.
and these teams, like, they're great teams.
They are.
But like Dallas won 50 games, Vegas won 50 games, Carolina won 50 games, but it just feels.
That's the playoffs for you.
And now we're effectively getting what is the Sun Belt Hockey Championship. Which
I'm writing that one down.
I hate it. I hate it.
Okay. Let's take a look at the voting here. Okay, I got 6 votes in. I think that's the max we can get given our listening audience. So I'm going to go to next here and see who won. And Redbox takes it 4-2. Congratulations, sir.
Yeah, thanks, man.
All right. Thank you, Patrick and Redbox, for again another excellent debate. Our second contest of the night. And gentlemen, hope to see you guys on a future show.
Oh, I'll be back. Good debate, Pat. Good
debate, Redbox.
Light 'em up. Our third and final debate will be on if Damian Lillard was in Steph Curry's situation. Would Dame Dollar have found the same level of success? Ritchie is going to argue for that. No, Dame will still be unsuccessful, whereas Cali Kid will be saying that yes, Dame would have found the same success as Steph. So I'm very interested in this one. See how this is going to be played out. So gentlemen, feel free to come off of mute. Make sure we can do a quick sound check. We can hear you.
Yo.
All right.
Hello, David.
Hey. All right. So we got you two on here loud and clear. Let's take a look here. I'm going to go off of Twitter names here. And is it Jock? How should I call you? Should I call you Cali Kid, or how should I call you?
You can call me Cal, or you can call me Jace, whichever you prefer.
I'll call you Cal then. So Cal, either way, J and K coming for R, so you have the choice. And I meant to do this for the last contest, so I apologize. But you have the choice of either choosing an open or choosing the close first. What do you choose?
I'll choose the close, which means Richie goes first, right?
Yep.
Okay, I'll choose the close.
Okay. All right, well, you can go on mute. And Rich, your 2-minute opening statement starts now.
Okay. I hope everyone is listening. This is about to get very interesting, okay? We all love basketball, okay? I love basketball. My parents love basketball. And my whole persona, my whole time watching basketball, okay? I've had a lot of favorites. I've had a lot of great players that I look up to and say, wow, what a time that we live in. What an era, okay? And there's been times where, these players that I don't really I'm not fond of, but I'm like, you know what? Respect to them. They're great. You know why? Because they show up. They prove themselves to be great. I've been a fond person of Damian Lillard. I really strongly dislike Damian Lillard. Everyone puts him on a pedestal. He hits shots. He's seen as an idol, a god. He hits these massive shots, and people are like, "Oh, he's so clutch. He's insane. Look at the shots that he hits." I think it's utterly ridiculous. I think he's overrated. I really, 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 really think that we're in a situation where he was on Steph's team. There is no way that he'd be as successful as Steph Curry is. Steph Curry has proved himself that he's a superstar. Multiple situations in his career. And most of the time when people argue that Dame would be as successful as Steph, they talk about two things. One, Steph is not clutch and Damian Lillard is clutch. And two, Dame has had no help in his career. I am going to prove that when after makes his statement and we talk it out for 8 minutes. I will prove those two things and even more, that Dame would not be successful if he was on the Warriors.
All right, Ritchie, take a breather. Your 2-minute closing statement is all done. Cal, hop in here and give us your 2-minute opening statement, which starts now.
All right, so Richie's right. We talk about how Dame is clutch, which is objectively true. But I'm also going to talk about the teammate thing because it is important. It is important. It is a team game. All right, so it is important. Let's take a look at the best players that Dame has had in his career. He's had CJ McCollum, who's solid guard. LaMarcus Aldridge, I love LaMarcus Aldridge. But then once you look at past that, it drops off to Yusuf Nurkic. Like, come on, man. Let's look at the best players that Steph has had. He's had Klay Thompson. He's had Andrew Wiggins. He's had Kevin Durant. And even though we shit on him now, Draymond Green. He's had Andre Iguodala, who won a finals MVP over Steph. And even early in his career, he had a second guard in the backcourt with him in Monte Ellis to pass to. All right? And Steph has had all this talent, and Dame has had no one. And yet, if you look at the career averages, Dame averages more career assists than Steph does, which with worse teammates. And also, when you look at it, Dame has had a better career defensive rating than Steph in their entire careers. And also something that goes pretty, underrated in the modern day is coaching. Steph has had great coaching his entire career. He's had Steve Kerr as his best head coach. All right. Dame's best coach is Terry Stotts. That's not something to scoff at.
30 seconds.
But Steve Kerr is arguably top 10 coach all time. When you have better coaching and better players, but you average less assists, you're not as good in defense, and you're not clutch, the guy who is better at those things and arguably just as good at some of the other stuff that you can do, like shooting-wise, I think he can be just as successful in Steph's situation. I can see the rest of my time.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen, for your opening statements. You both can come off with mute. And your 8-minute crossfire segment on if Damian Lillard was in Steph Curry's situation at the same levels of success as Steph starts now. Light them up.
I would like to bring up something because you said that Dame has had no help this year. He only has what's the player that you said? Yusuf Nurkic right now? That's the only help that he's had. Okay, well, let me look at these stats right here. I know nobody's really crazy about Anthony Simons, Jeremy Grant.
I like Anthony Simons, all right? If you want to make an argument.
Jeremy Grant is a great player, too. They average 40 points together a game without Dame. Those are pretty solid numbers.
Those solid numbers, but another thing you have to take in consideration is Dame missed a lot of games. Those are shots that are going to those two guys that Dame isn't taking. And also, are those guys really on the level of like a Draymond, a KD, a Klay, an Andrew Wiggins? Are those guys at the same level?
Okay. So
and also, you can make the argument for Anthony. I like Anthony, but right now in his career, you can't really make an argument for him because he's not starting as much consistently. Putting up numbers
what you're saying, right? Let me just say this: Dame has played 58 games this season. That's more than half for this season. That's still playing amount a lot. He averaged 32 points per game. He averaged 7 assists, which you're right, it is more than Steph Curry. But you know what? Those are hollow stats. Those assists don't matter. And here's another thing. When you talk about Klay Thompson and Draymond Green, sure, they're all-stars. They've won championships, and we know them for that. But let's look at this. In 2015, when the Warriors won the title, nobody expected them to be the first seed in the West. Nobody expected them to go away and win the title that year.
Well,
nobody expected them to get to that success level because no one is expecting these young players to exceed those expectations. Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, do you know why they played at the level they were? Steph Curry was around them. He might not have been the singular leader of that team, but he was the difference maker. He was the one that says, guys, we got this. We get over the top. Steph Curry has shown time and time again, when it matters most, he shows up in games in his career that may not be like in a deciding factor in terms of like clutchness. For your definition of clutchness, by the way, it's caused them to win overall. Steph has shown that, and he's made people want to be there. Dame, a lot of times, and the thing that makes me upset when people, when Dame is around in his career, what happens is that Damian Lillard, it's almost like he's either in or he's out. He's either hot or he's cold. And that you could say that sounds a little broad, but let me explain. Damian Lillard, he might have 70 points. He might have an amazing clutch game-winning that is like off the charts. People talk about it all day and all week on First Take and Undisputed and on all that stuff. But then when he doesn't show up, let's look at the stats, Jace. Let's look it up. In 2014 against, sorry, in 2019 against the Warriors, Game 3, he had to show up or else they were going to get swept in the next game. He had 11 points, 1 rebound, 4 assists, 6 turnovers.
Well, again, that's the teammate situation because that was
no. It doesn't.
Who do you have?
Yusuf Nurkic had more points than him. He had 20 points.
Because of course, if you're going up against Damian Lillard and Yusuf Nurkic, you're gonna be like, fuck it, let Yusuf Nurkic do whatever he wants. We're gonna let anyone but Damian Lillard beat us.
Okay, so let's let Carmelo Anthony, Gary Trent Jr., Mario Hezonja, and Wendy and Gabriel score too because they all had double digits. They all scored more than Damian Lillard in that game.
Because they weren't focusing on any of those other guys because their only concern was Damian Lillard, the only true threat on those teams. Those guys scored points, but they're empty calories.
So honestly, let me get in here for a second here. 4 minutes remaining. Do we think, how many championships does Damian Lillard win as part of that Warriors? We can debate whether or not it's a true dynasty in another time, but it's part of that championship run the Warriors have been. If we have Damian Lillard there with the same cast around him, but instead of Steph Curry, does he win any championship?
Yeah, I'm not saying he's winning the same amount of championships and stuff because I'm saying that he can do the same thing in his situation.
No, absolutely not.
So just so I can make sure. So Cal, you're saying he wins at least one. Richie, you're saying he's not winning any.
No. I say, okay, I'll say he wins. No, Jace is actually saying he's winning all 4. I'm saying he's winning 2. The ones whenever he was with KD. I'd say maybe at least 1, maybe 2. Okay, but he's not winning last year, and he's not winning in 2015.
Okay, I want to go back. Speaking of 2015, I want to go back to what you said about 2015. No one expected the Warriors to be the first seed and win it that year. They're, like you said, they were young. Usually, young teams are not expected to just come out of nowhere and win something. That's typically not the expectation. It's typically the media will say it's probably going to be some veteran team who's been there before, not young guys. And also before 2015, had a championship team ever been really like a team that shot as many 3-pointers as the Warriors did? Like, yeah, it was increasing slowly, but the Warriors were the ones who made that like a thing. So the idea of what a championship team was, like, threes were more important. They weren't like the centerpiece of your offense, They were something you had to have. It wasn't something that could be the main proprietor of your offense.
Yeah, and Steph Curry changed that. Steph Curry was the one that changed the game. He revolutionized it. And Dame tried to capitalize it. He actually tried to copy Steph Curry. And that's all he'll ever be, is a B- Steph Curry. He's going to be less than Steph Curry for the rest of his career. That's all he's going to be known for.
Warning.
Regardless of whether he puts himself in another team and he wins a title, because he could still win a title whenever he goes to Milwaukee or if he gets traded somewhere else, because obviously he's not going to want to be in Portland for the rest of his career. At least if I was Damian Lillard on the Trailblazers.
I also want to talk about organizational support. Like, when you look at what Steph has had, he's had a great, amazing organizational support. Guys who have made great signings and great trades. When you look at what the Blazers front office has done, they gave fat contracts to guys like Nick Batum and people in 2016, especially when KD went to the Warriors. All these mid guys were getting contracts, and a lot of those guys went to the Trailblazers. I can't even remember a lot of their names because they were so bad.
Bro, The Warriors were a small market team before Steph blew up. They were not even at the top of the charts. Now they're probably
the
the
Warriors
most
a small
expensive
market team. They play in the Bay. That's a pretty broad market.
They were
right?
in Oracle Arena. That was way cheaper than freaking Chase. Now they're like number one. They're above the Knicks. They're one of the most expensive teams in the NBA now because of what Steph did. Damian Lillard has no culture. He literally just hits shots. He's not for anybody else. He doesn't elevate his teammates, regardless of what the stats say, regardless of what the assists say. He doesn't do anything for his teammates. Nothing at all. He's just looking to freaking rap in the booth.
30
Culture
seconds.
cannot be built by one guy, all right? Culture cannot be built by a singular person. Dame is a singular player, all right? You can say Steph built that. You can say Steph built that culture, but he would not have built the culture to what it is without the teammates he's had, coaching he's had in the organization.
All right.
I just.
Yeah, I think we can end it there. I was expecting heat and passion, and I got exactly that. So thank you both for that great crossfire segment. Jace, I'm going to take it to you. 2-minute closing statement starts now.
All right. My closing statement is pretty simple. Is that it's just reiterating what I've already, made clear to the audience. Is that, like, yes, what Steph has done is amazing, and even if we were in the reality where these roles were reversed, where Dame started his career on the Warriors and had the same exact players, same exact everything, and vice versa for Curry, we'd probably be having the reverse debate right now, saying that Curry could have the same debate as Dame in Golden State. We're probably having that exact same debate right now, except we swapped the players. And I would probably be rooting for Steph in that debate. But ultimately, the success as a player, success as a team, cannot come to one player. It has to come to an organization, teammates, and coaching. And simply put, Dame has not had that anywhere close to the level. And, Ritchie said small market team. Portland is a much smaller market than what San Francisco and the Bay Area is. And I would like to reference that Ritchie himself has made, saying, quote, 4 days ago, saying, quote, I think it's official. Dame is better than Steph. Don't at me on that. He said that. That is a tweet he made 4 days ago after the Warriors got eliminated. Actually, before the Warriors got eliminated to the Lakers in the fourth quarter of that game. And I don't know how you can make the argument for someone that he would not have the same success as another player when you think he's better than that other player. But that's my opinion. I feel like I've made my views very clear. I think I've laid out very convincing evidence. I concede the rest of my time.
All right. Thank you, Jay. Ritchie, 2-minute closing statement starts now.
Okay, let's get this out of the way. Jace just lied to you all. I made that tweet because I lost a bet. We shook on a bet. He's a Lakers fan, and we said that if I lost to the Lakers, then I would have had to tweet out that exact tweet. If Jace lost, he would have had to tweet out that LeBron is not the GOAT and Steph is better than him. We had to embarrass each other. That does not count. Jace is rubbing it in. I see him. He's smirking behind the camera. I get it. But I'm going to talk about things that I did not discuss. And, it reminds me something that William Shakespeare said and Henry VIII. He said, his promises were, as he then was, mighty, but his performance, as he is now, nothing. I want to look at Damian Lillard's stats in 2014 whenever he was against the Spurs. Because whenever he beat the Rockets, people were saying that's one of the most clutch shots in NBA history. Right? He averaged 26 points a game, 48% from the field. He goes against the Spurs. What does he have? 19 points a game, 41% from the field, 17% from three. LaMarcus Aldridge, 22 points per game, 76% from the free throw line, 45% from the field goal. I mean, he had 5 other players that were helping him out. Dame had the lowest scoring out of each of them. And then in game 4, when it was Steph versus Dame, Klay Draymond Green didn't show up. Steph, 37 points. A triple-double. Damian Lillard, 12 points. You have got to be kidding me. He's only made the conference finals once in his career, and he's shown that he's pathetic. He is a shell of himself. As Shakespeare said, a fraud.
All right. I'll take it that you're ending it on that note. Gentlemen, thank you for a very entertaining third and final debate. Audience, I'm going to turn it over to you to vote for who you believe won that contest between Ritchie and Jace. The poll is now open, and you all are free to vote. Should be a very quick one. There are only 3 people that can vote, and all 3 have voted. And the winner is Ritchie. Ritchie takes that one. All right. Dame, according to our listening audience, says that Dame would still be unsuccessful. I have thoughts I wanted to share on this throughout the as you guys were going, but I'm going to save that for later. I'm going to go ahead and close the show. I want to thank you all for listening live, or if you're listening to this on whatever podcast platform of your choosing. Thank you so much for tuning in to the return of Light 'em Up. We're so glad to be back inside your ears, and we hope to have you interested in being on the show. Certainly follow us on Twitter at Light 'em Up Show. We love to hear from you. We also have a Discord, which I probably should. I'll pin it to the show notes on the podcast. But we have a Discord as well. And again, we just love to hear from our fans, our listeners. So definitely tune in, not only to this show, but our past shows too. Would love to hear what you guys have to share. But again, on behalf of the entire Light 'em Up crew, I'm live with David. Thank you so much for listening. Thank you to all our debaters that came on tonight. And we will see you all next time here on Light 'em Up on Twitter.